This is a true story of four strangers picked to participate in a roundtable discussion about life. This is the Universal Experience. Hi, I'm Michelle. Welcome to the Universal Experience, where we eat, drink, and most importantly, we talk. Come join the conversation. How do you feel not being able to forgive affects you?
It's draining.
I'm about to say, do you feel like it matters? Does it matter whether you forgive somebody or not? Or?
It does. And it not only is it draining, it affects how you treat that person going forward. Because I've noticed even in my own life, you know, I try to forgive, but like Ray said, it's hard. It's really hard, especially when somebody hurts you down to the core. But I've noticed even in my own life, if there's a situation that, you know, I'm dealing with and I haven't fully forgiven the person, years could have passed. But it affects how I treat that person. And they might not even quite understand, you know, that, you know, well, maybe she's being standoffish because, you know, she hasn't forgiven me. They're not even thinking that. They're just wondering, well, why is she acting like that? But not even knowing that it's because I haven't fully forgiven them.
Right.
Yeah. I think, like you said, it's like, what did you say? It's like renting a room out for free. It kind of always lives in your consciousness somewhere if you don't. It's like sitting there, you think about it more than it deserves, and it colors the way that you think about other situations that may be similar. And I think it just shapes the way you think about things in a negative light that is not going to be helpful. Even if you don't know that person anymore, or you don't talk to them anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely think it colors your perspective going. it colors your perspective going forward with other people and similar experiences, and it's like not having a clean slate.
Yeah.
Like you just always, if you're on a chalkboard and you never erase it, you're just overwriting the same thing over and over again, and it piles up and it jumbles up and it spills
to other relationships.
Yeah, it gets messy.
Yeah,
it gets messy.
Well, then you're holding other people accountable for something that someone else did, and they don't even deserve it.
Yeah,
you're not allowing them to get close to you. Because, and not even just, you know, like with romantic relationships, but, you know, friendships, you know, you know, and any other type of relationship, you know, you're not giving that newer person the opportunity because of the baggage you're holding on from the old situation.
Yeah, you internalize it. It's like, I think that it affects everything, your state of health, all of the above. So I think forgiveness is definitely for the party that is hurt and not the one that does the hurt. It's more of a process for the person that's hurt, because you have to make the decision as to whether or not you want to free yourself from holding that cloud over somebody else's head. It takes so much energy, it's so draining, and I think everybody's affected by it in different ways. We all process differently, but I think that internalizing it, that's the worst way, because so many things are affected by it when you internalize that stuff.
Right. Agreed. And you're stressing yourself out, and stress makes you sick. So you're in essence really just hurting yourself by holding on to it.
Right. And I'm happy that you said process, the forgiveness process. And out of curiosity, what is the forgiveness process?
No, it's like
I don't know.
That one's in the gray area.
Yeah.
It's as gray as it gets, I think.
I would agree.
Like, I feel like it, depending on the situation, who you are as a person, where you are at that point in your life, it plays all of that is like a factor into it. Yeah.
And then also you can't be naive, because there comes a point in time when you've had, you know, a certain amount of interactions with people. You know them to an extent. to an extent,
To an extent.
but you know them. So you know what to expect from that person. So if you are interacting with a person for, a certain amount of time and you know them to be a certain type of way with other people, you can't really be surprised when they're that way with you. So, there comes, with it a certain level of expectation and not being naive. Now, if it comes out of left field and it's like, oh my God, I never would have expected this person to do this to me, then, that's a different story.
Right.
But, if you know a person to be that way, don't be surprised. And that sounds bad, but, I kind of say you have to accept people the way that they are. And, I can't expect any more from you than what you've shown me.
Right.
So if you've shown me that you're a petty person, that maybe you're a little conniving, you tell your friends secrets, things like that, then I can't be, surprised when you do it to me.
Right.
Or, if you've shown me that you're not really, a dependable person, I can't be surprised and hurt when, I need you in a moment and you're not there. You've shown me who you are. So you can't be naive with it.
That's interesting. I honestly, and I agree with you, and what came up for me when you said that is for situations where people do repeatedly put themselves in the position of being the person to have to forgive another person. What do you think? What do you think about that? Do you think that's a thing? Do you think that people do put themselves? Why?
Oh, I think there's a lot of layers, and it depends on what that person's been through. And I think there's a lot about the science of trauma that says that people put themselves back into situations where they're re-experiencing things that are familiar to them. But I think it's also, I think just from my own experiences in life, sometimes there's comfort in chaos, or there's comfort in a situation that may be painful, but you know instinctually how to handle that. You don't know how to handle maybe a healthier situation or something that would be not like what you've experienced in the past.
And I say when you date somebody, you dealing with chaos, and you're so used to dealing with a guy who's bad for you. Then when you get a good one, you're like, whoa, what is this? Where's the drama? Like, I need the drama.
And then, some people have the Captain Save the Whole complex.
Yeah.
That is out of the realm of something that I would normally say, but yes. Some people have that complex because, some people, they just yearn to help other people. And there's nothing wrong with helping other people. We should strive to help other people. But there is, there's a cutoff.
There's a lack of boundaries there.
Exactly. You have to set boundaries. Exactly. You have to set
that
boundaries.
boy that's got mama and daddy issues, that's not your problem.
That's not your problem. You can counsel them to a certain degree. You can't take on all of their problems.
Because we didn't speak anything about forgiveness of self.
Girl, let the church say.
So, do you think that there is any correlation between forgiveness of self and forgiveness of others?
I'm still trying to figure out self-forgiveness, so I'll take y'all talk on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think forgiving yourself comes before forgiving other people. In my experience, for me, that's been my experience.
Yeah.
Forgiving myself for my part in whatever happened in that painful situation. It also brings the situation to a more real point too, because you're not just looking at it from the victim, you're looking at it from a human being who lived through an experience, whatever that is, and you had a part in it of some sort.
Right.
And you have to find the elements of that you're angry at yourself about to come to the other person.
Yeah, I agree. And I know we come from similar stories in that sense. And I know with my sister has been my greatest lesson in forgiveness for sure. Because that was definitely a relationship that was leaving like a gaping hole. Like, how there's some things, it's like, and some things that happen, and there's some relationships that you have with people where you will not be the same after this.
Right.
Like, this situation is just too large. And that was the gaping hole that was in me as far as forgiveness.
Right.
And like what you said in forgiveness of self, forgiving yourself for playing a part in what happened. And realistically, even though it sucks, but you did, and that's I think that's a point that I had to get to in forgiving her. I had to forgive myself that I watched that happen. I was in the house when that happened. I was aware of what was going on. And for whatever reason, whether it be my age, whether it be where I was mentally at the time, we were powerless against it. It was what it is. And once being on the other side of that, more into adulthood, I had to forgive myself for allowing that to happen, because it comes to a point you can't lie about different things. You can't deny and say, well, I didn't know. You did know, and you didn't do anything. And there's a point where you have to sit with yourself and make a decision. Am I going to allow this to happen and no longer do anything, or not? And I think that forgiveness of self was a large part in catapulting me into wanting to forgive her, even when it didn't look like the prettiest situation to forgive in. But yeah, it's about making a decision, and I think forgiveness is a lot like that, making the decision to forgive and shutting the book on it.
Yeah.
So if I can get really deep for a second, because speaking of painful experiences, I was raped 5 years ago, and part of what happens when that happens is that you're supposed to blame the other person only, and people leave out the part where you were there too, and there's a lot of victim blaming that happens, but victims usually blame themselves first and hardest, and that I was there and I did certain things and I chose to be around this person that I knew wasn't going to be good for me and I knew was likely going to harm me, but I was there anyway. And the battle between my decisions that led me there and what actually happened was the hardest part of getting through that. And forgiving myself was what helped me get to a place where I don't forgive that person yet, but I don't hate them the way that I used to, and it doesn't live as poison in my life anymore the way it used to, because it's not something I'm killing myself for anymore. And so that to me was my biggest lesson in self-forgiveness, because that's what led me to a healthier place about it.
That's a big
All right. Anything else on forgiveness? Thank you so much, you guys, for participating in this conversation. It's a great conversation. Thank you. Please tell a friend to tell a friend. Come back. It is the universal experience. See you.
I believe in miracles, that anything can happen. It took a seed of energy, a proton, it's so on and cracking. And it all started with a Higgs boson, an explosion. And I think the creator put the same kind of force in you.
This is the real universal experience.